Hi, and welcome to the Health Begins with Mom show. I am Dorit Balvanov, your host. On this podcast, I will share insights and interviews on health, parenting, and explore the question of what does it take to thrive as women, wives, and mothers. Now, let's get going with today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Health Begins with Mom podcast. This is Dorit Balvanov, your host. Today's episode is a bit different and unique. I spent the weekend going through a very interesting book that was recommended to me by a client of mine. And I thought in the beginning when I saw the title that, what a joke it is and I don't have time for this. But then, I've seen this title repeat in conversations among another group of women that I'm a part of. And then I think I've heard this title come up in a podcast that I'm listening to. And then my client mentioned it. So I thought, maybe this is a divine timing. And there is a reason why I keep hearing about this book and about this work. And so I decided to give it a try and explore. And so the book that I'm going to share with you today, I don't know, call it a book review or maybe just a putting forward the idea and the theme that I am interested to dissect here at over at this podcast. The Health Begins with Mom. I always talk about how the health of the world really begins with us mothers, with women, really. When we when we make a point of claiming or reclaiming our strength, power, sense of self, really speaking to the importance of taking care of us first, before everybody else, not as a way to neglect others or neglect our children or our families, but to give ourselves the permission to play and to show up in the world in a way that nourishes not only us and our families, but actually the world at large. I truly believe that we came here, each and every one of us came here with a unique gift, with unique talents, and a unique purpose. And if we don't do the work that is necessary to take care of ourselves, to feed ourselves, to feed our souls, to feed our bodies, to feed our minds, then it is very easy to find yourself 10, 20, 30 years down the road, look back and see and ask yourself, what the heck was I doing all of this time? Who am I? I see this, identity crisis happening in so many women that I know, even very close women to me in my life. And so today's podcast episode is going to be a little bit, like I said, different and unique in the sense that we're going to explore a little bit the archetype of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a wild soul, a wild being, and what happens when this wilderness is being taken away from us. What happens when it's being squished and over domesticated and put in a box, yeah, what happens? What happens to the wild soul? The reason that I wanted to share this is because you guys know I talk about this all the time. I am raising girls. I have 3 daughters, and I see their evolution, their growth, and I see myself so much in them. Each and every one of them illuminates a different part of me that I never even thought of, or I never even knew that it was present. And so, I talk about Dr. Shefali's work a lot on this podcast, and seeing our children as teachers, or, as God sent, in terms of each one of them will illuminate that part within us, which we need to grow for our own personal growth. So, raising daughters, raising girls, one of my very deep and I feel like this is my purpose in essence with all the work that I do with women and mothers, is really to heal the feminine. And I think today's episode is going to be maybe illuminating to some of you. Maybe some of you never even thought of these things. Me neither. These ideas are being kind of like unfolded to me because I feel like I'm kind of ready to accept and to learn and to change and to be coachable to these ideas. Some people would say, stop being brainwashed by these feminist ideas. And you know what? They can talk all day long. For me, again, like I said, I am on a mission. I am raising girls. I am raising women. I'm raising mothers. I am healing the feminine. And so for me, for you, it is instrumental to know and understand the wild woman archetype, and to understand why we think, do, or show up in a certain ways, where it's coming from, and what is the common thread to all of that. All right, so now that you are now after this long speech, you must be curious and asking yourself, what book is she referring to? So today I'm going to be doing a almost like in a book review. The book is called The Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype. And this is by the author named Clarissa Pinkola Este. She's a PhD. This book is apparently a million copy bestseller. It's a very well-known book. I honestly did not know about this work up until very, very recently. And so, like I said, I explored it over the weekend. It was mind-blowing to me how the ideas that she presents in this book are things that I've been thinking about so many times, and I've seen again and again with my clients and with my girls and with myself too. It's this, like I said, it's a common thread that is almost uniform across all women, across all females. And so this book is basically the author talks about different myths and stories and fairy tales that she has gathered throughout history. There are stories like, some of them you and I know, like the ugly duckling or the red shoes. There are other stories like Rapunzel or Baba Yaga. I remember growing up in Russia, the story of the old wild hag, and many other stories that I didn't really know. Stories by Hans Christian Andersen and the brothers Grimm, and all of these stories are stories and tales and myths about women and how they, how they have done certain things, and and where are these and what are the lessons that we can learn in terms of the feminine psyche, and what happens when the feminine soul is being squandered and not expressed properly in the world. So I thought I'd read the beginning of the book, where Clarissa, the author, is talking about the definition of what it means to be a wild woman, and then what happens when this wilderness, or this longing to be expressed and to be creative and to be fully present and to just be fully immersed in the world, what happens when that is being taken away from us, or even worse, when we ourselves don't believe that that there is a place for us. So like I said, I'll be reading a little bit from the introduction of the book, just to get us all acquainted with the term wild woman, why she had written the book, and let's see where this leads us. So she starts like this. Wildlife and the wild woman are both endangered species. Over time, we have seen the feminine instinctive nature looted, driven back, and overbuilt. For long periods, it has been mismanaged like the wildlife and the wild lands. For several thousand years, as soon and as often as we turn our backs, it is relegated to the poorest land in the psyche. The spiritual lands of wild women have throughout history been plundered or burnt, dens bulldozed, and natural cycles forced into unnatural rhythms to please others. It's not only by accident that the pristine wilderness of our planet disappears as the understanding of our own inner wild nature fades. It is not so difficult to comprehend why old forests and old women are viewed as not very important resources. It is not such a mystery. It is not so coincidental that wolves and coyotes, bears and wildish women have similar reputations. They all share related instinctual archetypes, and as such, both are erroneously reputed to be ingracious, holy, and innately dangerous and ravenous. The modern woman is a blur of activity. She is pressured to be all things to all people. Healthy wolves and healthy women share certain psychic characteristics: keen sensing, playful spirit, and a heightened capacity for devotion. Wolves and women are relational by nature, inquiring, possessed of great endurance and strength. They are deeply intuitive, intensely concerned with their young, their mates, and their pack. They are experienced in adapting to constantly changing circumstances. They are fiercely stalwart and very brave. Yet both have been hounded, harassed, and falsely imputed to be devouring and devious, overly aggressive, of less value than those who are their detractors. They have been the targets of those who could clean up the wilds as well as the wildish environs of the psyche, extincting the instinctual and leaving no trace of it behind. The predation of wolves and women by those who misunderstand them is strikingly similar. So, that is where the concept of the wild woman archetype first crystallized for me, in the study of wolves. Fairy tales, myths, and stories provide understandings which sharpen our sight so that we can pick out and pick up the path left by the wildish nature. The instruction found in story reassures us that the path has not run out, but still leads women deeper and more deeply still into their own knowing. The tracks we all are following are those of the wild and innate instinctual self. I call her wild woman for those very words, wild and woman, create the fairy tale knock at the door of the deep female psyche. When women hear those words, an old, old memory is stirred and brought back to life. The memory is of our absolute, undeniable, and irrevocable kinship with the wild feminine, a relationship which may have become ghosty from neglect, buried by over-domestication, outlawed by the surrounding culture, or no longer understood anymore. We may have forgotten her names, we may not answer when she calls ours, but in our bones we know her. We yearn towards her. We know she belongs to us and we to her. It is into this fundamental, elemental, and essential relationship that we were born, and that in our essence we are also derived from. The wild woman archetype sheets the alpha matrilineal being. There are times when we experience her, even if only feelingly, and it makes us mad with wanting to continue. For some women, this vitalizing taste of the wild comes during pregnancy, during nursing their young, during the miracle of change in oneself as one raises a child, during attending to a love relationship as one would attend to a beloved garden. A sense of her also comes through the vision, through sights of great beauty. Once women have lost her and then found her again, they will content to keep her for good. Once they have regained her, they will fight and fight hard to keep her, for with her their creative lives blossom, their relationships gain meaning and depth and health, their cycles of sexuality, creativity, work, and play are re-established. They are no longer marks for the predations of others. They are entitled equally under the laws of nature to grow and to thrive. Now their end-of-day fatigue comes from satisfying work and endeavors, not from being shut up in too small a mindset, job, or relationship. They know instinctively when things must die and when things must live. They know how to walk away. They know how to stay. When women reassert their relationship with the wildish nature, they are gifted with a permanent and internal watcher, a knower, a visionary, an oracle, an intuitive, a maker, a creator, an invader, and a listener who guide, suggest, and urge vibrant life in the inner and outer worlds. When women are close to this nature, the fact of that relationship glows through them. This wild teacher, wild mother, wild mentor supports their inner and outer lives, no matter what. So the word wild here is not used in its modern pejorative sense, meaning out of control, but in its original sense, which means to live a natural life, one in which the creature has innate integrity and healthy boundaries. Wild woman is the health of all women. Without her, women's psychology makes no sense. This wilder woman is the prototypical woman, no matter what culture, no matter what era, no matter what politic. She does not change. Her cycles change, her symbolic representations change, but in essence, she does not change. She is what she is, and she is whole. She canalizes through women. If they are suppressed, she struggles upward. If women are free, she is free. Fortunately, no matter how many times she is pushed down, she bounds up again. No matter how many times she is forbidden, quelled, cut back, diluted, tortured, touted as unsafe, dangerous, mad, and other derogations, she emanates upward in women, so that even the most quiet, even the most restrained woman keeps a secret place for her. Even the most repressed woman has a secret life, with secret thoughts and secret feelings which are lush and wild. That is natural. Even the most captured woman guards the place of the wildish self, for she knows intuitively that someday there will be a loophole, a chance, and she will hightail it to escape. I believe that all women and men are born gifted. However, and truly, there has been little to describe the psychological lives and ways of gifted women, talented women, creative women. There is, on the other hand, much writ about the weakness and foibles of humans in general and women in particular. But in the case of the wild woman archetype, in order to fathom her, apprehend her, utilize her offerings, we must be more interested in the thoughts, feelings, and endeavors which strengthen women and adequately count the interior and cultural factors which weaken women. In general, when we understand the wildish nature as a being in its own right, one which animates and informs a woman's deepest life, then we can begin to develop in ways never thought possible. A psychology which fails to address this innate spiritual being at the center of feminine psychology fails women and fails their daughters and their daughters' daughters far into all future matrilineal lines. So in order to apply a good medicine to the hurt parts of the wildish psyche, in order to aright a relationship to the archetype of the wild woman, one has to name the disarrays of the psyche accurately. So what are some of the feeling-toned symptoms of a disrupted relationship with the wildish force in the psyche? To chronically feel, think, or act in any of the following ways is to have partially severed or lost entirely the relationship with the deep instinctual psyche. Using women's language exclusively, these are feeling extraordinarily dry, fatigued, frail, depressed, confused, gagged, muzzled, unaroused, feeling frightened, halt, or weak, without inspiration, without animation, without soulfulness, without meaning, shame-bearing, chronically fuming, volatile, stuck, uncreative, compressed, or crazed. Feeling powerless, chronically doubtful, shaky, blocked, unable to follow through, giving one's creative life over to others, life-sapping choices in mates, work, or friendships, suffering to live outside one's own cycles, overprotective of self, inert, uncertain, faltering, inability to pace oneself or set limits, not insistent on one's own tempo, to be self-conscious, to be away from one's god or gods, to be separated from one's revification, drawn far into domesticity, intellectualism, work, or inertia, because that is the safest place for one who has lost her instincts. To fear to venture by oneself or to reveal oneself, fear to seek mentor, mother, father, fear to set out one's imperfect work before it is an opus, fear to set out on a journey, fear of caring for another or others, fear one will run on, run out, run down, cringing before authority, loss of energy before creative projects, wincing, humiliation, angst, numbness, and anxiety. Afraid to bite back when there is nothing else left to do, afraid to try the new, fear to stand up to, afraid to speak up, speak against, sick stomach, butterflies, sour stomach, cut in the middle, strangled, becoming conciliatory or nice too easily, or revenge. Afraid to stop, afraid to act, repeatedly counting to 3 and not beginning. Superiority complex, ambivalence, and yet otherwise fully capable, fully functioning. These severances are a disease not of an era or a century, but become an epidemic anywhere and anytime women are captured, anytime the wildish nature has become entrapped. A healthy woman is much like a wolf, robust, chock-full, strong life force, life-giving, territorially aware, inventive, loyal, roving. Yet separation from the wildish nature causes a woman's personality to become meager, thin, ghostly, and spectral. We are not meant to be puny with frail hair and inability to leap up, inability to chase, to birth, to create a life. When women's lives are in stasis or filled with ennui, it is always time for the wildish woman to emerge. It is time for the creating function of the psyche to flood the delta. How does wild woman affect women? With her as ally, as leader, model, teacher, we see not through two eyes, but through the eyes of intuition, which is many-eyed. When we assert intuition, we are therefore like the starry night. We gaze at the world through 1,000 eyes. The wild nature carries the bundles for healing. She carries everything a woman needs to be and know. She carries the medicine for all things. She carries stories and dreams and words and songs and signs and symbols. She is both vehicle and destination. To adjoin the instinctual nature does not mean to come undone, change everything from left to right, from black to white, to move from east to west, to act crazy or out of control. It does not mean to lose one's primary socializations or to become less human. It means quite the opposite. The wild nature has a vast integrity to it. It means to establish territory, to find one's pack, to be in one's body with certainty and pride, regardless of the body's gifts and limitations, to speak and act in one's behalf, to be aware, to be alert, to draw on the innate feminine powers of intuition and sensing, to come into one's cycles, to find what one belongs to rise with dignity, to retain as much consciousness as possible. The archetype of the wild woman and all that stands behind her is patroness to all painters, writers, sculptors, dancers, thinkers, prayer makers, seekers, finders, for they are all busy with the work of invention, and that is the instinctive nature's main occupation. As in all art, she resides in the guts, not in the head. She can track and run and summon and repel. She can sense, camouflage, and love deeply. She is intuitive, typical, and normative. She is utterly essential to women's mental and soul health. So what compromises the wild woman? From the viewpoint of archetypal psychology, as well as in ancient traditions, she is the female soul. Yet she's more. She is the source of the feminine. She is all that is of instinct, of the worlds both seen and hidden. She is the basis. We each receive from her a glowing cell which contains all the instincts and knowings needed for our lives. She is the life-death life force. She is the incubator. She is intuition. She is farseer. She is deep listener. She is loyal heart. She encourages humans to remain multilingual, fluent in the languages of dreams, passion, and poetry. She whispers from night dreams. She leaves behind on the terrain of a woman's soul a coarse hair and muddy footprints. These fill women with longing to find her, free her, and love her. She is ideas, feelings, urges, and memory. She has been lost and half forgotten for a long, long time. She is the source, the light, the night, the dark, the daybreak. She is the smell of good mud and the back leg of the fox. The birds which tell us secrets belong to her. She is the voice that says, "This way, this way." This is a book of women's stories held out as markers along the path. They are for you to read and contemplate in order to assist you toward your own natural won freedom. Your caring for self, animals, earth, children, sisters, lovers, and men. I will tell you right now, the doors to the world of the wild self are few but precious. If you have a deep scar, that is a door. If you have an old story, that is a door as well. If you love the sky and the water so much you almost cannot bear it, that is a door. If you yearn for a deeper life, a full life, a sane life, that is a door as well. The material in this book was chosen to embolden you. The work is offered as a fortification for those on their way, including those who toil in difficult inner landscapes, as well as those who toil in and for the world. We must strive to allow our souls to grow in their natural ways and to their natural depths. The wildish nature does not require a woman to be a certain color, a certain education, a certain lifestyle, or economic class. In fact, it cannot thrive in an atmosphere of enforced political correctness or by being bent into old burnt out paradigms. It thrives on fresh sight and self-integrity. It thrives on its own nature. So whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, a woman-loving woman, a man-loving woman, or a God-loving woman, or all of the above, whether you are possessed of a simple heart or the ambitions of an Amazon, whether you are trying to make it to the top or just make it through tomorrow, the wild woman belongs to you. She belongs to all women. To find her, it is necessary for women to return to their instinctive lives, their deepest knowing. So let us push on now and remember ourselves back to the wild soul. Let us sing her flesh back onto our bones, shed any false coats we have been given, don the true coat of powerful instinct and knowing. Infiltrate the psychic lands that once belonged to us. Unfurl the bandages, ready the medicine. Let us return now, wild women howling, laughing, singing up the one who loves us so. For us, the issue is simple. Without us, wild woman dies. Without wild woman, we die. For true life, both must live. So how amazing is that? So beautifully written. I actually, as reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to like stay on a stage and, and read this to thousands and thousands of women, because I want all of us to know this. I want all of us to hear this beautiful message of the importance of getting back to our own unique, intuitive longings, that knowing, that deep knowing that we all have. I remember when I worked with the coach, so many times she asked me questions. That was the power in coaching, and that is the power of coaching, to be to allow somebody else to ask you those questions that you never even think to ask yourself, or you never even dare to ask yourself. But then the answer to those questions, it lies within us. It lied within me, and it lies within you. And that's what I do also in my coaching calls. Whenever there is a very difficult question, or a woman feels really confused about what are the next steps in terms of her healing journey, or how to go about a certain issue or problem or a challenge that she's going through, all the answers are within you. But it's really the magic is in the trusting. The magic is in the knowing that there is answers for you. And then sometimes, the way of the feminine, I often say that The feminine doesn't move in the speed of Google. It needs time. It needs time to unfold. It needs time to mold. It needs time to just evolve and happen. So patience is another one of those qualities that I believe as women, as wild women, as wise women, we all need to have. And this is I'm gonna be totally honest here. This is something that I struggle with very, very, very much. But this is my evolution. This is my healing journey. This is something that I'm working on constantly in my, whether it is in my own personal life, in my mothering journey, in my marriage journey. And so I thought that this, this introduction was so beautifully written, and I just absolutely had to share it with you guys. Because think about this, how many women in your life that weren't true to their own intuition, to their own, that voice within them that said, don't marry that guy, don't go, don't go to that school, don't take that course, this is not, don't waste your time here, you shouldn't be applying for this job, this is your time to quit. How many of us have that, these longings and these whispers in our souls, and yet we ignore them, we pretend like they don't exist, and then we, years go by and we basically find ourselves years later with feeling broken or feeling like something is wrong with us, and asking ourselves whether it's feeling deep regret and asking ourselves where did we go wrong, what's wrong with me, why me, why wasn't I gifted with more luck or with more opportunities. But the truth is that you were given opportunities always. It's because you were unconsciously, or maybe even consciously, denying yourself and not listening to that soul and to these cravings. So I guess today what I'm going to leave you with is to just give yourself the permission to slow down and listen. Listen to your soul. Listen to that wild archetype, to the wild soul archetype that resides within you. It resides within me. It resides within every single woman that in your life, including your little girls. As I see my girls grow and become more mature, the way they think, or the ideas that they have, or the thought patterns that they show, it is really something that I truly revere. I think this is so magical. It is, sometimes I find that it's sacred, and I want to bathe in it. Like, I want to sit in it. I want to listen to them talk more and hear the ideas that they have about different school projects, or the way they view marriage or childbirth or raising kids. Or sometimes I know my oldest one especially, she teaches me a lot about kindness and about fairness and all of that, and it's so beautiful to see how she has that deep knowing within herself, that deep knowing that helps her to distinguish between what's wrong, what's right, but how also I see myself, my own job as a mom, as a mother, as her mom, to still guide her and to help her to to stay true to herself and not to be detracted or distracted by negative thinking or patterns of thought that are almost like mean in nature, which is specifically that which she wants to eradicate. so I think this is something that pertains to all of us. I remember even myself, and I talked about this so many times on the podcast. The biggest and the best decisions I've made in my life were all made because I stayed true to my intuition, to my intuitive force. At the time, I didn't even know that I was doing it. I always thought of myself as a very strong-minded person, very opinionated. I always had something to say. I always had and have something to say. And so I thought, that must be the reason. But in reality, I think now the more I learn, the more I understand, the more I listen to other women who work with me, I see how, when we stay true to ourselves, that is how we heal the world. That is how we heal ourselves, our bodies, our psyche, our sense of self. And then we bring that healing into our homes. And so that is how, from that place, we parent our children, or we tend to our marriages. And then that same vitality, that same, wild feeling, that fierceness, we bring into our work, into our careers, into our sacred work in the world. And I feel, and that's what I mean when I say that mothers are healers. Women are healers. This is what we have. This is the gift that we've been given by the Creator to make this world a better place. It's like Gandhi says. He said that the world will be saved by a woman from the West. And I think the more women understand and realize it, claim it, own their power, own their strength, that's where change is going to come from. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to my ruminations today. I know it probably has been deep for some of you, but I totally believe in your ability to understand, comprehend, and then draw the right conclusions for your life, in your life, that will help you show up as the best woman, as the best mom, as the best wife that you can possibly be. It all really and truly begins with you. So thank you so much for listening. For those of you who are new to this podcast, I would love to have you join us over at our Facebook community. It's called Busy Moms Get Healthy. So just search it up and ask to join. There are 3 questions there. Please make sure to answer them. If you don't, I will not approve you. So I want to make sure that we are all aligned in terms of our mission, in terms of our intentions, to be a part of a community that is growth-oriented, of mothers who are ready to change the world, beginning from themselves, beginning from taking care of themselves. And then I would love you to follow me on Instagram. You can find me at Dorit Palvanov, just one word. And also the Diva dates. Guys, I'm opening up my calendar for new Diva dates. If you want to sign up, so if you're new and you don't know what a Diva date is, it's basically a half-hour conversation with me. It's like a discovery call basically, where we talk about you, about your goals, about where you see yourself going in the next 6 months and the next year. How do you view your evolution? What are you willing to do to to take the charge for your own health in terms of your healing journey? What are the things that you would really like to focus on and heal in your body? Whether it is whether you're healing from a hormonal imbalance, maybe a thyroid condition, a menstrual condition, whether you have PMS, painful periods, anything like that. If you're ready and willing to give yourself the space and to join an incubation process where you will be mothered, you will be nurtured, you will get clear strategies as to how to heal your body step by step, slowly, then this is for you. So to book that call, just go to my website, www.healthbeginswithmom.com/diva, and there are multiple places where you can book that call with me on that page. Also, I am planning on starting a new addition to this podcast. I am planning to do some on-air coaching calls, which will be obviously pre-recorded, but then they will go live. They will be aired on this podcast, which will be my coaching calls. So I think what I'll do is I'll start recording these diva dates, because the more I do them, the more I realize that they are so precious in terms of the realizations that women are going away with, and how more empowered and more believing in their abilities and in their abilities to take care of themselves and truly, like, from the core, to show up to their lives. And so I'm going to start recording these calls and share them with you on the podcast. So if you are interested in a free coaching call, please head on over to my website, www.healthbeginswithmom.com/diva. Book that call with me, and we'll get you set up. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Health Begins with Mom show. I love hearing from you, so please post your comments and questions over at healthbeginswithmom.com/podcast. If you love the show, please share it on social media and in your real life with other moms who might enjoy this content. And if you have a burning question or topic you'd like me to hit on the show, just drop me a line at dorit@healthbeginswithmom.com. And if you love this show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review, and subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Much love and many blessings.